Okay, what can we do? How? I mean, we all want to move forward. We want to end this. What can all of us do? What can we each do to make this end and start a new beginning?
Well, the very first thing is we can make it plain that we're in this country and in all the other countries so that we adopt our native birthright citizenship or national status, which is something that we've been deprived of by mainly the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The provisions that they did after the Second World War left us all at sea and all unidentified. They created this giant slush pile of everybody out at sea, and they vacated the land jurisdiction of all these countries as part of the impersonation scheme. And they did this by registering us and issuing birth certificates, of all things. And this is part of an old Holy Roman Empire scheme, okay? But anyway, the end result is that we were subjected under foreign law because we were misidentified as being employees or dependents of these foreign corporations. So, we have to clear up our own political status and stand up and say, I'm an American from Wisconsin and I claim my birthright status. I don't work for these corporations. Thank you. And so what we've done is we've created a recording service, a land recording service, where people can go and they can make a one-page declaration of their birthright political status. I'm Eamon Kelly. I was born on Clare County, Ireland in 1963 and blah, 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 blah. And I claim my DNA and everything else. And then two witnesses who can confirm that, yes, this guy, we've got a picture of him here, this guy is the Eamon Kelly who was born in County Clare in 1963. Okay, so we've got an ID program where people can declare their political status properly and overcome this registration, and then come back to the land and soil jurisdiction and stand under their actual public law instead of being under color of law, regulations, codes, statutes, and all the rest of it that the corporations operate under.
But basically, my understanding is that the Pope Francis was murdered in 2020 and he's been replaced with a rubber mask wearing imposter who reports to the Octagon group in Switzerland. And that's why your trip to visit the Pope to make this happen hasn't happened. Is that, do you see that?
Well, there's certainly something odd going on and has been since 2013 when Francis entered office. Now, if you're Catholic, you know that the Jesuits take an oath by which they are bound to obey the Pope in all things. So you also then logically know that a Jesuit can't be Pope. It just doesn't make any sense, does it? I'm going to obey myself.
Yeah, it's and then like I said, I actually went to Italy to meet these people, and they kept telling me, well, they got their, strange as it sounds, I actually went there. I'm a reporter. I deal with real life, firsthand information. I went to Italy. I met the P2. I was in the Vatican, in the back rooms, and they told me, I swear to God, they say they report to aliens based in Switzerland. I think that's just a camouflage for not aliens, but a group that has tried to stay hidden, which is the, it's what you said right at the beginning. It's a group of European monarchs.
Well, Switzerland has sold off enclaves within Switzerland to the banking interests. So they have all these international independent city-states operating out of Switzerland. And as a result, when people say Switzerland, well, yeah, they're talking about the location on the globe, but they may not be talking about the Swiss government. They may be talking about what's going on in one of these international city-states. See?
Yeah, no, I agree. Swiss citizens are very well educated. They're fierce defenders of democracy, and a lot of them are very angry at what's happened within their own country. So yeah, it's not the Swiss people. We're talking about these extraterritorial entities. There's about 200 of them. They issue their own passports that are diplomatic. They go to any country in the world, kill people. They can't be arrested, and these are the entities that the Swiss military and the Swiss government need to shut down, because if not, the rest of the world is going to be forced to do it for them. Do you agree with that?
Well, I don't see any way around shutting down what's called the empire of the city, because it's a criminal empire. All the things that we're talking about are crimes. Not political, it's not racial, it's crimes. These are all crimes. Well, I certainly think that the military has to get off its duff and side with the people. And I think the people have to get off their duffs and declare themselves and stand on their own land and soil and take charge of their land and soil governments, which have been vacated for various periods of time. Yeah. Our land and soil government has been vacated for 160 years. The Australians have been vacated since 1901. You see? And this is something I want to get through to people. Number one, the central banks were created to control commodities, and money is just one commodity. So when your Japanese gangster guys were telling you about them sitting around a table and dividing up commodities, how much wheat was going to go where and how much oil was going to be where, you're talking about central bankers, okay? And that's what central banks were designed to do. They're designed to rig commodities. And I can speak to that, because one of my ancestors, like a great granduncle, is the guy who invented central banking. Yeah. Who knew, right? But yes, he did that to restrict and profit from coffee imports into Prussia during the reign of Frederick the Great. And so that's why, the central banks were created, was to control and profit from commodity rigging, essentially. So that's that part of the story. So central banks are not banks in the sense that we think of banks. Yeah, they handle currency and they deal with interest rates and all of that, but that's just manipulating a certain commodity, which we think of as money or credit or whatever. They also rig all the other commodities. So central banks are a central problem for everybody.
My advice is that everybody listening to this can do something about the situation. All they need to do, don't send an email. Pick up the phone, call your local MP, call your local congressman, call your local government, call the police. Just get on the phone, call the military. If everybody uses the phone, which is analog human, and not some email, you can force change on the system. That's a lot of power that individuals have, and they need to start using.
We are.
Good. We are. What are your concluding statements for today, if I may ask?
Well, I think that the very best thing is that we need to restore our own government. And we can do that lawfully and legally and peacefully and have every right to do it, as long as we declare our proper birthright political status and join our state assemblies or our county assemblies, whichever, depending upon, what system your government had for international relations. And just do this as a restoration instead of a revolution. And we need to do it that way, Ben, because they have the guns. And they're always looking for an excuse to use guns. They like guns. They like death. They like murder, mayhem.
Aim them at the bad guys, which isn't what your job was supposed to be in the first place. You don't work for the bad guys. You deal with the bad guys. You protect humanity. You don't, terrorize humanity. And that's the lesson the U.S. military needs to relearn.
Yes, they do. But in the meantime, those of us who are the civilians, We have to play a different game. We have to be, as the Bible says, wise as serpents and gentle as doves, because they have a lot of motivation. The municipal corporations and the commercial corporations backing them have a lot of motivation to kill us, as we are currently seeing. They have a tradition of killing their creditors.
Yes. Now, but here's another, maybe a concluding remark on my part. I was just reading an article today that confirmed mathematically that the idea of 6 degrees of separation actually is real. So a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, 6 times you can connect to anybody on Earth. That means that if we use our own personal connections, we can change the planet. And you're not powerless to sit there and watch this happen. Call your friends, get them to call their friends, and we can make this happen. Okay, what? And then I'll let you conclude, Judge Von Reitz.
I think you did it perfectly. I think that is ultimately the solution, is that more people pay attention, get involved, care enough about their own lives and their own property to spend some time really getting involved in promoting change in a peaceful way. One other point I want to get across to as many people as possible is that these corporations, which are doing all these terrible things, Pfizer and all the rest of them, Bayer, Monsanto, they're poisoning us and poisoning the world. All of those are subject to the jurisdiction of the air, and they can be dissolved under ecclesiastical law if they're caught doing anything that's unlawful.
Okay.
And virtually everything they do is unlawful. So we can take them to court, ecclesiastical court, and demand that they be liquidated.
Okay, and if the ecclesiastical court turns out to be corrupt, what do we do?
Well, then it will be apparent that they're corrupt, and we will have them on the frying pan too, you see. We use their own law against them. We force them to perform, and if they don't perform, then they are showing their dirty underwear to the entire world. And that is an effective strategy, because I've found that of all the things that they hate and despise and don't want, they don't want bad publicity. They want to be regarded as these shining icons, and they want to have everybody's trust. So losing that trust and losing that reputation is pretty tough for them.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me and us, and I hope we can talk again soon.
I hope so too. It's great finally talking to you.
Yes, it is. A lot of people said this was overdue, and I'm glad we were able to talk. Thank you.
Take care, Ben.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.